Hello, everyone, and welcome to IAedChat Live. We are bringing you the latest educational news each month, and we are pleased to be able to connect with you tonight. We have a very special guest joining us that we will introduce in just a couple of minutes. Josh Allen is here to talk to us about the Go Open, Open Educational Resources movement, and he will be on in just a couple of minutes, as I said. In the meantime, you can connect with Josh on Twitter at J_Allen. As you can see, tonight's chat will have a live video stream, and we will be taking questions from the audience. If you happen to have any, please submit your questions via our hashtag on Twitter, which is hashtag IAedChat. We'll monitor that feed, so please do not hesitate to share your thoughts. We will also get this show on our podcast a little later on tonight. If you have not checked us out on iTunes or on Podomatic, do so. Subscribe to us today. We would really appreciate that. So we'll start off and introduce our team. First off, I'll introduce myself. I am Dan Butler. I'm an elementary school principal at Epworth Elementary School in the Western Dubuque School District, and very pleased to be able to join you this evening. At this time, I'm going to kick it over to Andrea Townsley.
Hey everybody, my name is Andrea Townsley. I am a school improvement consultant with Grantwood AEA, serving 5 districts in that agency, and super excited to welcome Josh here tonight. Josh is a technology integration specialist for Lewis Central CSD. He's a member of the Go Open leadership team, and he's co-host of the Dads and Ed podcast. Welcome, Josh. We will go ahead and get started, but make sure you all remember, if you have questions for Josh regarding Go Open or anything that he talks about tonight, please give us a shout out on the hashtag IAedChat on Twitter, and we will get your question asked. I'll go ahead and start with question 1. Josh, tell us about yourself and your experiences in education.
Well, first off, thanks for letting me crash your party tonight. As you mentioned, I am the Tech Integration Specialist for Lewis Central, which is in Council Bluffs, Iowa. This is my 4th year there, and prior to that, I had a similar role in a school district here in Nebraska, and started out with in the elementary classroom. So, for me, the role of technology integration. My wife likes to tell the story. In 2000, I didn't know how to make a PowerPoint because I didn't ever have a computer growing up, or my parents weren't really into it or anything like that. And it wasn't until grad school that I understood what technology could do. So I went from 2000 not knowing how to make a PowerPoint to 2007 being the technology integrationist for the 4th largest school district in the state of Nebraska. So always wanting to learn more, which really kind of leads into Go Open as well. So that's it.
All right, Josh. So if you wouldn't mind, give us a little background. Take a moment to explain Go Open and really what this is all about and what it entails.
So Go Open is an initiative started 2 years ago at the Office of Ed Tech, which is part of the U.S. Department of Education. Andrew Marcinek was the first Go Open fellow. He was followed up by Christina Peters. And the mission kind of came after, during the Obama administration, they pushed for everyone to have broadband access. And then this was kind of a follow-up to that. And the idea is to essentially replace textbooks with openly licensed educational resources. And openly licensed educational resources, or OER, are materials that can be reused, remixed, repurposed. I think there's 2 other R's that go in there, but they're not copyrighted. So essentially, if you do a big textbook purchase, everything that you have is copyrighted. You can't really share that out. You can make copies for your class, but you can't put it online. And so the idea is that to develop resources with the support of the government to replace that. And there's a number of reasons that you do it, which we'll get into throughout this time period. But it can be full textbooks, and it can be certain just activities. And towards the end, we'll talk about where you can go and get those. But essentially, that is what Go Open is. What you do when you sign up, it's free to sign up with the Office of Ed Tech. You commit to replacing one textbook within a calendar year and sharing out what it is that you have. So at Lewis Central, we replaced our math book in K1, and you can go to our website, lewiscentral.org/goopen, and you can actually see what we use as a textbook there.
That's great. Thanks. And for the people following along, there is a Go Open hashtag. It's just hashtag Go Open. Pretty lively hashtag on Twitter that people are sharing things quite a bit throughout the day. So make sure you'll want to check out Go Open hashtag on Twitter. So I'll kick it to Andrea.
All right, Josh, talk to us about your journey within this movement. How did you come to know about Go Open, and what has motivated you to push forward with it?
Well, I just distinctly remember, it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago now, sitting in a meeting in my previous district, and we were going to make a $750,000 K-6 social studies textbook purchase. And we went with the company that we went with because it was the least worst of the options. And that absolutely, as an employee and as a taxpayer of the district, drove me nuts. That it wasn't our best option, it was our least worst option. And so I've always thought about, how could we, replace that? CK12, which is one example of an OER that has complete textbooks already, was a thing at the time. It was kind of up and coming, but it was relevant. And so that kind of went through, and then I switched districts, and I had heard about what Andy was doing when he first got started, and we had kind of talked about, if that was something that we could do. And it wasn't really a good time when they got first started, but Christina took over. So that would have been 2 years ago in October. Christina took over in April once Andy's term was up, and Christina and I have been friends for a long time. Christina and we used to live a mile away from each other, and we organized Ed Camp Omaha for a number of years together. And so she was back one day and decided to stop by, and we kind of started talking, and we started talking with our curriculum person who I work next door to, and decided that was something that we needed to be interested in and knowledgeable about. And what we found out when we started talking with people about our district joining Go Open is that we were already doing it. And it's funny, that's a refrain that I hear a lot, that, well, our teachers are already using this thing that they didn't pay for. Does that qualify? And you start digging more into it, and yeah, absolutely, that works out perfectly. Our teachers used openly licensed resources because they couldn't find a textbook that would match their philosophy of thinking about math. And so it was funny, before we even signed up, we'd already met the criteria for Go Open. So I thought, well, look at how awesome I am. We are done before we even started. So it's a lot of work, and we're definitely not. It's not that we're never purchasing a textbook again, but we definitely are on the right path, and at least having those conversations.
So we did get a question from the audience, and I'm going to ask that in just a minute, but I want to keep with our script here for a minute, and then I'm going to come at you with 2 questions, Josh, and you can handle it. So obviously your district is involved in this movement. Lewis Central is, as you've said, with your K1 math. And then how about other districts in the state of Iowa participating in this work?
So there are 4 that are official Go Open launch districts. Ourselves, Council Bluffs Public was the first one to sign up on the website. Cedar Rapids. Oh, Erin Thompson is going to kick my butt the next time she sees me. One of the Cedar Rapids districts is. Andrea, I don't know if you know which one it is, but I know it's one of them. Maybe I'll look that up if I have a chance. And then there is a school district northwest of Des Moines. It's either called Union or Mountain Union. I haven't met anyone from there. But they are the 4 Go Open districts that are official. But one of the things about that, though, So Aaron and I did a presentation at IAedTech a couple weeks ago. And what we found, I had a teacher come up to me from Northwest Iowa and say, well, we're already using this Engage New York, which you mentioned as being an OER. That is our math textbook. Do you think we should sign up for Go Open? I was like, well, absolutely. You've already met the criteria. So I think what I'm finding is that while we may be the only 4 official ones, we're just the 4 that have signed the form. And there's a lot of people that are using it either intentionally or unintentionally. So it's some of it's just getting the word out.
Perfect. So now Nancy, I think I'm going to butcher your name, Nancy. I apologize. Kuehler. She asks, how do you get schools around to participate and Go Open? And you've started to allude to that a little bit with the Office of Ed Tech and those types of things. But do you want to elaborate a little bit more? Let's say I'm a district. I want to get involved in this. How do I do that? Or how do you encourage more people to do this?
So a couple different ways. If you know that you want to do it and you want to become a Go Open launch district, which is your first step, you contact the Office of Ed Tech, and you can go on their website. I believe it's tech.ed.gov. And there's resources there that you can look through. There's a district launch packet, which we used to figure out, is this somewhere that we want to go? Is this something that we want to do? We have also, myself and really Aaron Thompson from Cedar Rapids, have been presenting quite a bit. We actually, at Lewis Central, we hosted a Go Open Summit last March and sent that out to all of the AEAs across the state, and actually into Nebraska as well because of our location right along the river. And we had 150 or so people come from all parts of Iowa and Nebraska, and we actually had some Missouri and Kansas and South Dakota folks as well. So we're trying to get the word out. We presented at IAedTech. I believe Aaron and I have both presented to superintendent groups with our respective AEAs, and actually Corey Vorthman, who's the assistant sup for, I think they call it learning instruction, whatever, assistant sup for curriculum. I don't remember exactly what Council Most calls it, but he and I presented together to our AEAs. So we're trying to get the word out that way, through AEAs, through the hashtag, which you mentioned, obviously. Those are all places to learn about it. So
I'm just a little bit curious. I want to follow up. So you've had the opportunity to talk to some different stakeholder groups within the school, and those decision makers like the superintendents, or maybe possibly those tech integrationists, those AEA folks that are maybe making those decisions to whether or not go with a Go Open type of structure. How's the response been? I mean, just looking at that and having those conversations, having that summit. Tell us a little more about that, if you wouldn't mind.
All of the feedback has been positive. From all parties involved have been very positive about it. But I think that districts are still nervous to pull the trigger and say, okay, we're going to pay our teachers to sit down and write a curriculum document in lieu of doing a textbook. And I think some are just nervous because what textbook companies always say is, well, we pay these reviewers $1 million and you're going to pay your teachers $25 an hour or whatever it is, whatever the going rate is now. How do you know it's going to be viable and rigorous, or any other curriculum word you want to attach to it? How do I know that that's going to be something that is going to be, hold up to the standards of a textbook? And so I think that the other part of it is people think that you can't just do it for a while and then change your mind. I mean, let's say that you decide to Go Open in whatever content area you want. Let's say you pay your teachers for that summer. You're not going to pay nearly as much as what you did for a textbook. And if it doesn't work in 3 years, then by all means, buy a textbook. Or if you find something that better meets your needs, then it's not like you can't, when you buy a full textbook purchase, you can't deviate from that for 7 to 10 years. If you Go Open and use openly licensed resources, you can easily financially, change course after 2 or 3 years. You're not out the money that you would be from a normal textbook purchase. So, and it also doesn't have to be K-12 everybody. We're working in K-1 math, 2 grade levels in one subject area. That's our main focus. We haven't branched out. We actually purchased foreign language textbooks this summer. So it doesn't have to be everything. Find your teachers that are willing to do the work because it does take some time. They're going to have to be knowledgeable about their content area. You can't just pull all of your kindergarten teachers and say, hey, we're going to have all of you do this. They all come with their own expertise. So you kind of have to divide and conquer that a little bit. But the reception has been positive. People like the idea. But we have not, to my knowledge, really gotten anyone to fully pull the trigger that already wasn't at least thinking about it.
So you kind of hit on some of the benefits already, but I'm going to ask this question just because I think it's a good question. There are certainly financial gains, and I think we've talked about that with you. That's a huge commitment if you buy a textbook and then it's really not what you wanted. But there are huge financial gains by choosing to move forward with this work. But tell us a little bit more about what some of the other benefits might be to choosing Go Open.
One of the things that I didn't really think about until Christina talked about it is teachers' understanding of their standards. If you are going to be diving in deep and finding things that meet all of your needs, you're really going to have to know and understand your standards. Another part would be, oh, I just lost it. It was a really good one. I got distracted. I told them before, it's my 5-year-old's, my daughter turns 5 today, and I have a coral reef sitting off to the side of me for our background picture. You have your standards. Flexibility. We talked about textbooks and what they can offer and how it takes a long time to change course. If some new technology or new resource comes out, it is a lot easier for you to insert that or replace a previous activity or textbook area with a new resource. A lot of people I've heard say, well, by the time textbooks get there, they're already out of date. Well, being a Go Open district and having an openly licensed resource allows you the flexibility to swap in new information as it becomes available, or new ideas, or social studies is always a great example. Last week they released JFK's letters. If there was content that was in there that was relevant to what you were teaching, you could easily put that in. If you just got your social studies textbook last year, the fact that those were finally released doesn't come in for another 7 to 10 years, but until you finally purchase new textbooks. So there's just a lot more flexibility that can be in there. And one of the things that I want to touch on with the financial start as well, you don't have to be one-to-one. Like I said, our K1 is doing it right now, and it's in math. And in no way, shape, or form do I think that K1 kids need to be on their Chromebooks. We are one-to-one K-12 with Chromebooks, but they don't need to be on them every minute of the day, especially in math. I believe, and our teachers believe, that math should be hands-on at a lot of different levels, not just K1, but there's a whole lot of other things that kids need to be doing with that. So this isn't Go Open is not a technology movement. It's a curriculum movement. It's not a one-to-one thing. It doesn't have to be. One of the school districts that gets highlighted quite a bit because they were an early adopter as well was North Kansas City. They were not one-to-one at their middle school when they started this process. And even with printing out color copies for all their students, they still saved $500,000 versus what their textbook purchase is going to be. So just to reiterate the financial piece. But I think the amount of curriculum knowledge that you gain is huge. And that can lead to so many other advantages down the road.
All right, Josh. So let's say that I choose to go open with my district. I've saved a great deal of money. Let's say we've gone with, I don't know, elementary reading, if you will, or ELA, language arts as well. So we've saved a great deal of money. What might I do with the money that was saved? You know, it's free to start, obviously, but what other expenses might I expect as I move forward with this?
Yeah, one of the jokes that the Office of Ed Tech likes is that Go Open is free like a puppy. It is, you know, you get a puppy that's free, but you still got to feed it, you still got to clean it, you still got to do all this other stuff with it. You know, you're still going to pay teachers, either in like in our district, our teachers worked on it during the day, so we're paying extra for subs for them to do that. In Cedar Rapids with Aaron, when we were talking to IAedChat, what they do is they enter into, I don't necessarily want to call it a contract, but they get a 3-year commitment from their teachers. And so they pay them to work, I believe it was once a month for 3 hours after school. So you have that outside of the classroom cost if you go that route. You may, if you are a one-to-one district, or especially if you're looking at a high school setting, you may need to improve your infrastructure because you are going to have kids online more because that's where their textbook is. They may be doing some more graphic intensive things that or bandwidth intensive things. CK12 has been introducing a lot of animations and just different role play simulations that kids will be doing, and that takes up bandwidth. So you can repurpose it that way. You know, as I mentioned, you could still print if you needed to. So that may, you know, some of that money may be transferred to that. Maybe use that money to go one-to-one. Maybe you were just short, and you know, that, you know, helps to push you over the edge. And you know, maybe it gives your board another example of what we would do if we were one-to-one, or what we would do with these devices, or whatever. So there's a lot of different places it can go. The other thing that I would say is that just because you have a textbook that is free does not mean you won't pay for anything. So you brought up the example of English language arts, where you still have to pay for a book, likely. You know, there are a large number of books that are out there, but if you're having kids read a certain novel, you're probably still gonna have to pay for that in one way, shape, or form. So there's we actually had this conversation the other day. We were talking about like how much has to be free before you count yourself as a Go Open district. And there really isn't, you know, there's nothing on the Office of EdTech website that says 55% of your curriculum needs to be free and openly licensed for you to be called a Go Open district. Like you have to make a good faith effort to be using openly licensed educational resources. You know, there's always things that are going to cost. You know, one thing you might do is if you are a district that you know, is doing English language arts, maybe you subscribe to Epic so your kids have access at home. Or, you know, it's the English language arts one, I think, is an easy one to say, well, books, that's where your money is going to be going. You can mix up your variety or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Lots of options and flexibility. I just think that if you are going forward with this, you're just you're able to go where you want to go with the needs within your building in a very relevant and authentic manner. I would think. I really would think you'd have a lot of options that way.
Yeah, and you know, I hate harping on the cost of textbooks, but I will. There's no flexibility. Once you sign that contract and you say we're going to spend X amount of money on a textbook, you're stuck with that until it's paid off. You know, if you decide to go a different direction, or let's say you're in a smaller school and you have 5 math teachers at the high school and 3 of them leave 1 year, and the new 3 that come in have a different teaching philosophy. Well, they're not stuck using the old books, or they're not sitting on the shelf collecting dust, they have the flexibility, because you're using openly licensed resource, to go find something else that meets their needs. So I think, it's you don't have to feel bad anymore about being stuck with a textbook for the next 7 to 10 years when you're using openly licensed resources.
Absolutely.
Josh, tell us a little bit. We talked briefly about this earlier, but is there a concern with legitimate content being shared in the Go Open movement? And what type of process is there for quality check that needs to be gone through?
One of the things that I find is that administrators and curriculum folks that are not, or teachers, whoever's writing the curriculum, if they're not totally on board with Go Open, this is the first thing that they attack. It's the easiest to brush off. It's the easiest to say, well, that's why we pay the money, so we know that these 10 people who looked at the book before, they know their content, so that's why we pay the money. Is there a legitimate concern? No. Not, and this is one of the things I say about why we chose to officially register as a Go Open district. We have a monthly meeting with the over 100 districts that are Go Open districts. The states, there's 19 states, maybe more now, that are statewide openly Go Open states. We have a monthly meeting with them, and the Office of EdTech does a really good job of bringing in people to share what's going on, and maybe guiding us to some of those resources a little bit. So you have some of that. I get to hear what other districts are doing, which is huge for me, to figure out, hey, could we use that? Does that fit with what we're doing? The other thing would be is that there are a number of rubrics that districts have created to evaluate some of that content. Some of the things, and actually this question got brought up at IAedTech, and I know Cedar Rapids has one. We do not necessarily have one specific for openly licensed resource, but does it meet like accessibility requirements? In our case, does it work on a Chromebook? Some districts may have to say, does it work on an iPad? What standards does it meet? So the rubrics are already out there in various forms. It's also not, where that concern may be legitimate is if you just go to Google and search OER content, and you scroll 3 or 4 pages down and you find something that may not be openly licensed like you think it is. So that's the other part I like about Go Open, is having a channel that I can say, well, you know what, we did it with ours now. When we first started using Go Open, one of the main resources we used was Engage New York. And that was our first venture into openly licensed resources. And I am far from a copyright expert. So I reached out to Christina and said, hey, this is the right thing, right? I think we're doing this right, but I need someone smarter than I to double check that. And that was a perfect example of it. So having that connection to the Office of EdTech is vital. To kind of focus your learning a little bit. The other part that I would say is that it goes, when we adopted, well, this has kind of been a question that has came up with us, is school boards want to know when you're going to spend a lot of money. They don't always care if you don't spend money. Well, how does that work then if your entire K5, K6 elementary math is openly licensed? Like, at what point do they need to know about it? And that's something that we're really kind of still wrestling with. It's not costing you any money. And that's kind of big school, small school discussion. If it's a big school that's doing it, likely there are people that, you know, are in the know, that have the ear of the school board, that can, you know, hey, this is what we're doing. At a small school where the teachers are doing it, they may just do it on their own. And no one realizes that for 15 years they haven't purchased a textbook. And no one cares to ask why, because their math scores are still good. So that's kind of while our textbooks should still go through the same, our openly licensed textbooks should still go through the same process of approval through our district content teams. We haven't necessarily nailed down, like, at what point, like, how much change do you need to make to it before it has to come back through the content team? Because that's part of the joy of openly licensed resources. You get to change it whenever you want, and it's flexible. Well, how much flexibility does it need before someone has to approve it to make sure it's consistent with what we're doing? So that's a that's a fun conversation. Teachers love it when you ask them to be accountable to a central office person, when they really just want to be left alone in their room. So good times.
Hey, Josh, I have a follow-up. It's not, Lynn Kleinmeyer talked about some misconceptions. She said there are still a number of misconceptions as to what Go Open and OER are all about. In your conversations that you're having with people about Go Open, what are some of those misconceptions?
First of all, thanks to Lynn for checking in. And I did get a message. Yes, Lynn, that was my 5-year-old getting her new doll, who snuck behind me earlier in the evening. One of the misconceptions that we get a lot, actually I got it from our PTA folks, is, well, I need a textbook at home, so I know what my kids are doing. And I said, well, number one, this has been going on for 2 or 3 years and you didn't know it, so I think you'll be okay. Number two, we're still printing stuff. Like, you're still going to get papers home. You know, really, I would love it if our teachers, and some of them do, but would create screencast videos of what they're teaching, instead of parents trying to read it out of a textbook. We don't have that in place right now. We don't, not on a consistent basis, but it is a concern. A lot of parents do want to help their kids when they're at home struggling with their homework. So how are we making sure parents know that information is there? Our Go Open site is listed on our school district website. It is not on our K-1 building website. Maybe that's where it should be. So that's a misconception, that parents will never see anything again. The other misconception, and I think it's the overwhelming issue that administration has, is this has to be a K-12 all or nothing thing. And I just can't stress enough that you don't have to be one-to-one. That's probably a separate misconception. This is a one-to-one thing. It's not a one-to-one thing. There are many districts that are not one-to-one that are Go Open districts. But that, again, we are focusing on K-1 math. Anyone who is purchasing a new textbook has to at least seriously consider openly licensed resources in our district, per our district leadership team, who is kind of like the final step to getting the school board to approve it. But like I said, it's not K-12. It's, you know, if you go to lewiscentral.org/Go Open, there's a video there, and that I'd shared with parents, that just talked about what it is and what it isn't. It is a push to not have textbooks. It is not a district-wide mandate. Our teachers are strongly encouraged to consider openly licensed resource. They are far from required to go with that. They are more than welcome if they A, don't want to put in the work, or B, find exactly what they want, to purchase a textbook that meets their needs. So I think, you know, the having to be one-to-one, parents are never going to see a textbook, and it's a K-12 mandate, I think are all ones that come up on a frequent basis.
So you, within your district, you started K-1, and that's been your start with Go Open. Do you have any recommendations of a starting leverage point for a district to go in? I mean, you guys chose younger grades of math. Was that intentional? Was that due to the personnel that you had in those places? Talk to me a little bit about that, if you would, if you know of a leverage point, or is that contextual based on where you're at?
Completely contextual.
Yeah.
You know, I keep mentioning Aaron Thompson. They started in middle school with English language arts because she was on board and her teachers were on board. Our math started because of not being able to find the resources that we wanted to teach our kids in the way that we think they need to be taught math. Other districts, it is money. North Kansas City's decision was based around not wanting to write the check for $650,000 or whatever it was. I don't remember the exact number. You know what? One of the things that's on the Go Open website, if you go there, is some of those reasons why people do it. Some of it is money. That's kind of been an ancillary benefit for us, not the main focus. Some of it is those are the people who need a textbook. We reached out to a number of other areas who were looking for textbooks, and they haven't necessarily hopped on the Go Open bandwagon. Sometimes they can't. Foreign language, for example, there's really not. It's coming, we've been told, but we needed it sooner than what it was going to be available. But there are people working on high school foreign language, but at the time we needed it and what we needed it for, most of the resources that were out there were high school related. So we had, in that case, the teachers who wanted to do it, but we just didn't have the resources there. So yeah, sometimes it's financial. Sometimes it's the teachers who need the textbook are excited and willing to do it and wanting to be a part of that. The other thing would be, so like with Cedar Rapids, it was the right people were in the right place for that to happen. For us, our teachers took the lead and our instructional coaches took the lead and were willing to do that. Council Bluffs Public, I believe, is really focused more on not necessarily like taking a full textbook off of online and giving it to their teachers. They're more looking at what are the activities out there that we can kind of custom make our own. So, and again, I haven't ever had the opportunity to chat with anyone from the 4th district, but all three of the ones that I have chatted with are all at different places. We all made different entry points, and it all works with Go Open. I mean, no one way has to be the right way. I'm always more than happy to go out and say, this is what we're doing, and this is what these others are doing. But there's not a right or wrong way. Liberty School District in Missouri, if you've never met Eric Langhorst, he's a fantastic individual that I've known for a number of years. He really spearheaded their movement in Liberty from a social studies aspect. So again, right people in a fantastic content area. One of the things that he talks about, he's been like Missouri Teacher of the Year and like all these other histories, social studies recognitions, and just an all-around great guy anyway. But he talked about, textbooks, history textbooks specifically are not necessarily geared towards kids in Missouri. Neither are they in Iowa for whatever reason. But there is so much history in Missouri that kids could and should know about that they can travel to. That was really the impetus for him to get started and transform what it is that he's doing in his classroom. He had a session. He and his curriculum director, Jeanette Westfall, came up and spent some time. They actually had one of the first Go Open summits, but they came up to ours last March, and he did a what does Go Open look like from a classroom teacher's perspective. And it was a packed house. He had a fantastic job. of really showing what that looks like. So again, it really, your entry point can be whatever it is that, is upcoming, as long as you have the teachers that are willing to put in the work.
That definitely makes sense to me. That definitely makes sense. So throughout this conversation, you've shared some different resources. You've talked about Engage New York, and then forgive me,
CK12.
CK12. Where would teachers go for resources? I know you've mentioned those two for sure, but where would they go? And within these resources, is it just full of textbooks? What's there?
Yeah, and one thing that I would say is you don't have to be a Go Open district to use openly licensed resources. Like they're openly licensed. Anybody can go use them. I mentioned the nice young lady at IAedChat that came up to me and said, "Well, we're already doing this." It's like, yeah, say you're Go Open, sign up. Get the official marking of it. CK12 is almost like the grandfather of openly licensed educational resources. They've been around for a number of years. They have what are called flex books. And so, well, let me back up a second. My personal philosophy is if we have teachers that are wanting to pursue openly licensed resources as their textbook, I want to present them with a full textbook and have them pick it apart, what they don't need and what they want to replace, with all of the other activities that are out there that are openly licensed. That's my personal preference. That's not a requirement of Go Open. That is just Josh saying that. So we send our teachers to ck12.org. Full textbooks there, great animations. El Paso, Texas, was in a huge money crunch a number of years ago, and their superintendent said, "Why in the world are we paying all of this money?" They have completely gone to CK12 and have all of their stuff there. That's where all their teachers go. I got to meet him 6 months ago, I guess, at a Go Open exchange, and it's just, the work they're doing is just amazing through CK12. You can pull out what you need, put stuff back in, but you start with a full textbook in a wide range of courses. We use for our elementary math Engage New York, which has math and literacy K-12. What we've also done, so Engage New York, for better or worse, whatever your preference is very scripted. Like, do this for 2 minutes scripted. We also use the Georgia Standards of Excellence. They have math curriculum as well as some others. Theirs is very play-based. And so how we came across our own is we had for 6 months to a year, half a year to a full year, school year, we had half of our teachers using Engage New York, half of them using Georgia Math, sat down at the end of that time and put the two together, what we really wanted to create our own textbook. And that's what you would find, along with some of the other things, like some of the storytelling problem solving that our teachers wrote themselves. That's what you would find if you go to lewiscentral.org/GoOpen. So CK12, Engage New York, Georgia Standards of Excellence. Michigan, actually, Aaron was telling me about how they're using, Michigan has this huge book project that's been led by the State Department of Ed there, that has some full textbooks, I believe, social studies and possibly language arts. Don't quote me on that. But that is another place to go for like your full textbooks. And there may be some others that I can't think of off the top of my head. Those are the main places that we go to find OER full textbooks. On the flip side of that, there are a couple major websites, and more of these are coming. More have been promised. The two main sites that you can go to find content that is more activity-based would be Amazon Inspire, which is relatively new, just here in the last couple of months. Backed by Amazon, of course. They have a similar rating system. There is tagging that happens. There's metadata. There's standards alignment. There's user rating, which is always a huge one. One of the, we talked earlier about how do you know quality. That's another way that you can do it. Obviously, rubrics are another way as well. But if you show up and you see something that has a 1-star rating, you may be able to question it for just a second. And then the other probably most common one would be OER Commons, which is just oercommons.org. OER Commons will create hubs, which I believe all the AEAs have their own hubs within OER Commons. Evan Abbey at Iowa AEA Online has been doing a good job of championing that within the state of Iowa. Actually, Cedar Rapids has their own hub on OER Commons. I think they're kind of struggling with how it ties in with the learning management system right now, but it's a place that anyone can store and share what they're doing. For us, our sharing has just been done through Google Docs. Same with Liberty. It's just shared out through a Google Doc. But if you're looking for just activities, let's say you just purchased a textbook and you again, it was the least worst one that you could acquire. You're probably going to go and not want to do some of that stuff. Well, an OER Commons or an Amazon Inspire would be places that you could go to find other standards-based activities or standards-related, not necessarily standards-based, but activities related to standards that would definitely help improve your instruction in the classroom.
So before we close up here tonight, you've shared a lot of great information. So let's do, I don't really like the term elevator speech, but if you had to give us a couple of the big talking points about Go Open and all of the information that you shared tonight, can you give us a couple-minute little speech to close out here with our questions, and then we'll kind of talk about what's next for you?
Yeah, I would say, it's a fairly risk-free trial. For just going and searching, your Engage New York, Georgia's Standards of Excellence, CK12. I highly encourage you to start with CK12, no matter what your content area is. Go there, Google the Michigan Book Projects. Or if you just have a new textbook, go look at some of those resources. It's not going to cost you anything. You don't have to sign up for anything, or at least pay for anything. Just try it out. We mentioned a couple times just about the flexibility. If you try it, it doesn't work, you're not out any money. Then once you look through all of that stuff, then you can decide, hey, if we put some time and effort behind this, we really down the road can save a lot of money in the district. It's not a first-year savings because you're paying teachers for a lot of time of organizing and picking and choosing and moving things around. But it's year 5, year 3, year 4. Once you're only having to make small tweaks to what you're doing, that you really start seeing that savings start to happen. It's not going to be in year 1. It's never going to be a full savings, but at least give it a shot. Look into it. It's going to cost you anything.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing about these great resources. If anybody has questions about Go Open, the hashtag Go Open is a very active hashtag on Twitter. So you can always go there, reach out to Josh at J_Allen on Twitter. There are a lot of resources that Josh mentioned that I or Dan shared out on the Twitter feed. So we will go ahead and link a transcription of the Twitter feed underneath the video link. So all of those resources will be archived underneath the video link if you guys are going to watch this later, if there's anybody watching it later, just because there were so many resources shared. We wouldn't want you to miss out on any of those. So Josh, I'm going to hand it over to you for a quick final thought on your visit with us tonight.
Yeah, I haven't been doing a great job of following the hashtag tonight, so apologies for that. But Brian McCann, Case High Prince, Princ on Twitter, was asking of someone else, I don't know who it is, about, have you heard about Go Open? And that I would be a resource. And absolutely. So as far as what's next, there is a workshop in the works. I don't have specifics yet for the spring NETA conference. NETA is the Nebraska ISTE affiliate, like ITech is Iowa's ISTE affiliate. So we did a breakout session that was very well received. Aaron and I did at ITech. I'm working on a workshop proposal for NETA in April, especially those of you that are on the western edge of the state. There is, I believe, hopefully going to be a breakout session separate of mine with some other voices to talk about their experiences with Go Open from the state of Nebraska. So that would be an opportunity. I am always willing to Skype in or Hangout or whatever video chat platform you have, or phone call, to just talk about our experiences. I'm not necessarily ever going to guide you down a path, but I'll share what we do. I'll share what I know others do, and that's kind of a decision that your teachers and curriculum staff, depending on your district size, are going to have to make. Hopefully, we're working on a roundtable Go Open discussion at SAI next fall. That's a long ways out, so you never know how things can change between now and then. But we're trying to get the word out more. As Aaron and I are both always open to chat however we need to, like I said, share what we're doing. As far as where we're going next in our district, to be honest, I don't know. I'm not sure where we're at with who needs a new textbook. We've kind of had some conversations, especially around NGSS, with that adoption coming statewide. I know it was mentioned that there is an Iowa history textbook in the works through. It was someone from the AEA who mentioned it at our session. I don't know if they're the ones working on it or if it's the state that's working on it, but that would be a fantastic resource to have. So it's kind of where we're at. Like I said, doesn't have to be 100 miles an hour. We're slow and steady wins the race. So we're in turtle speed. Just kind of getting the word out. And I will say one other thing though, that we talked earlier about the other benefits other than financial. We have talked a lot about copyright in our district, and we are not unlike most districts where teachers for the last 25 years may have been a little bit lax on what they can and cannot do in regards to copyright. So when we talk about what an openly licensed resource is, we get to have that conversation again. And when I met with all of our content teams, it made some people a little uneasy, which I'm fine with. I thought that's always good. So definitely that would be another part that I forgot to mention earlier on.
Well, thanks so much, Josh, for joining us tonight, and for all of the resources shared, all the great conversation, and just a whole lot of things to think about related to Go Open. So want to share with the audience tonight, if you've got upcoming regional, national, or events within Iowa that you want to share with us, reach out to us. We will make sure we get that shared out through these live shows. And I want to thank everyone for joining us on IAedChat Live. This is always the last Sunday of the month that we are bringing you a live show. A reminder to our people, we will not have a live show until January 28th. We will be off in the month of November for the Thanksgiving holiday, and then in December as well for the winter holiday break. But it is always great learning with all of you. A very special thank you again to Josh Allen. And on behalf of Andrea and myself, I want to thank you for joining us on IAedChat Live. Be sure to follow some of your new friends that you met tonight to continue the conversation. We will be back next week with another great topic. And until next time, be the change. Good night, everybody.